In this video, we'll be asking the question, is caffeine a friend or a foe when it comes to energy and complex fatigue? Now, for those of us who enjoy the taste of coffee, or maybe those who prefer it to disguise it with a variety of syrups, we've been conditioned to reach for a caffeine hit to ward off fatigue. Now, I've spoken to many fatigue clients who find that their single daily coffee offers them improved mood, cognitive clarity, and a perceived boost in energy. But conversely, I've spoken to other clients who find themselves to be very sensitive to caffeine, find that it leaves them jittery and wired with a headache or an energy crash, or even has a negative impact on their gut. So let's dig a little deeper into why we might see this variety of responses. So firstly, to some of the potential benefits of caffeine. Caffeine contains some amazing phytonutrients, including antioxidants and polyphenols, which are really beneficial to us. There is also extensive and robust evidence to suggest that caffeine taken 60 minutes prior to exercise improves physical and sporting performance, specifically in relation to endurance, strength, and physical ability, and these ergogenic benefits are widely cited. However, as with all research, we have to be mindful about how we apply it. And here, for example, a notable proportion of those studies were carried out on healthy young participants in the age range of 20 to 25. So whilst this evidence is a no-brainer for those young people engaging in sporting events, and arguably still of interest to those suffering with fatigue and generalised physical weakness, we must remember that the sample groups here are not reflective of chronic fatigue specifically, nor do they consider the various biochemical nuances of complex fatigue, including sensitivity to stimulants, which is a common factor in ME/CFS. We also need to consider the impact of caffeine on sleep. Now, studies have shown the half-life of caffeine, i.e. the time that it takes our body to eliminate half of the amount of caffeine we consume, can range from 2 all the way up to 12 hours. Now, that's a wide variance, and it demonstrates how people metabolize caffeine in different ways. And this may be in part due to our genetics, but also our frequency of caffeine exposure that will influence our tolerance. One study by Drake and colleagues demonstrated that caffeine, even consumed 5 to 6 hours prior to settling down for the night, can still disrupt sleep. Apart from the obvious negative impact of sleep disruption on energy and fatigue, sleep is crucial for cellular repair, our immune system. It's when we clear out toxins from the body, we regulate our metabolism and hormone balance, and sleep is needed for housekeeping within the brain. Insomnia can even disrupt the balance of our gut microbiome, leading to potential increases in inflammation, immune activation, and even changes to mood balance. And every single one of those facets play an important role when we're considering getting somebody back to full health. So at OHC, sleep quality is a primary consideration, along with anything that seeks to disrupt it. So caffeine can come under the microscope here. Now, when it comes to mental energy, a review paper by Shi and colleagues in 2025 demonstrated that moderate caffeine intake can improve mood and cognitive performance. That's possibly due to the abundance of polyphenols, which have a neuroprotective effect and also offer anti-inflammatory and antioxidant benefits. Yet, findings also suggest that excessive caffeine intake might have association with anxiety, insomnia, and PTSD. So there are certainly benefits, but there are variables here to consider, including our independent tolerance to caffeine, our ability to metabolize it, the amount and time of day that we ingest it. Now let's consider caffeine and mood. We often see anxiety or depression alongside complex fatigue. A review paper by Antonio and colleagues summarised that whilst a moderate consumption of caffeine might actually have a mood-enhancing impact and temporarily alleviate depressive symptoms, Again, more excessive and less mindful use of caffeine can actually exacerbate anxiety and mental health issues. Whilst we're considering anxiety and the coffee jitters that some people experience, it's also helpful to understand how caffeine might influence the secretion of our stress hormone cortisol. Now, it's commonly understood that caffeine can disrupt the balance of cortisol in the body. In another review paper that's interesting, Sabt and his colleagues found that our cortisol response to caffeine was heavily influenced by the type of caffeinated beverage that we consume. So coffee elicits a cortisol increase of 50%. Energy drinks and colas can provoke a 30% increase in cortisol, and tea a 20% increase. So the caffeine content per serving ranged in each of these beverage groups, so that's going to be really important here. But also consider the presence of things like L-theanine in tea, which actually counters and promotes relaxation and calming. So this study showed that habitual caffeine consumers had less of a cortisol response overall. We also need to factor in the existing state of your nervous system when we consider your caffeine consumption. So if, for example, you find yourself in a period of anxiety, your nervous system is dysregulated, your adrenal glands are activated, and you have an elevated level of cortisol output already, and then as a non-habitual caffeine drinker, you reach for an espresso, the impact of caffeine on your anxiety and nervous system is likely to be exacerbated compared to drinking an espresso in a calmer, more regulated state. Finally then, to the mitochondria and your energy production. Research around mitochondrial function and caffeine here looks promising at first glance, with the suggestion that caffeine actually supports the creation of new mitochondria, which arguably might lead to better mitochondrial function and energy production. However, it's also documented that caffeine blocks certain receptors, particularly a docking station for a compound called adenosine. And once that caffeine is metabolized and stops blocking those receptors, there's an influx of adenosine, which can leave us with an intense feeling of fatigue. So the post-caffeine crash is a real consideration. So let's summarize the things we should consider before relying on coffee for our energy boost when we have complex fatigue. The potential for insomnia or lack of sleep caused by caffeine. The potential impact on cortisol production, leading to increases in anxiety and mood imbalance. Your sensitivity. Many people with complex fatigue find themselves more sensitive to caffeine, potentiating a more exaggerated response to it. And also the post-caffeine crash. So there is a caffeine induced by a chemical mechanism that can set you up for energy boom and energy bust, making that energy hit unreliable. So, as with all things, there is your biochemical individuality to consider here. There are many alternative ways to support physical and mental energy from specific nutrients that support your mitochondrial function, such as magnesium, CoQ10, B12, and then other nutraceuticals such as ginseng, rhodiola, ashwagandha, cordyceps, and reishi. The key is knowing which is best for you and your current clinical needs. If you would like to know more about how our nutrition team can support you, do arrange a free discovery call with us and let's explore.